First of all, let me extend my condolences to the 18 people and their families that have been shot over the last 2 weeks. And in particular, extend condolences to the persons on this Saturday, which was the bloodiest day in St. Lucia's history, where we had 8 people shot and 2 people murdered. 2 people killed, sorry. Mr. Speaker, I say that because very often we think of homicides as simply as a number, and we forget the names and the personalities and the lives behind that. And it's for that reason that we take time to extend our condolences to them. I understand firsthand from my own community the trauma that this creates for everyone. I mean, a young girl of 11 years of age, Mr. Speaker, right at the side watching and being in a situation where her mother and her 15-year-old brother were shot. The mother had the presence of mind, Mr. Speaker, at the time when the shooter turned her way to push her daughter aside. But notwithstanding that, Mr. Speaker, as you can imagine, the girl is very traumatized. Her dress was dirtied with her brother's blood. And I don't bring this to create drama, Mr. Speaker, but simply that the sympathies and our thoughts and prayers are not about just the person who was killed, but all of those persons. When you hear the story of the taxi driver that parked near Kentucky Fried Chicken and saw 4 bullet holes in his car and how close that came to him. So this is having an effect. I want to say that I empathize with the government, with what is going on in St. Lucia, that this is something that is going to have a dramatic impact on all St. Lucians, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister or the member from Cass East would have stood up and made some comments about untruths, he said. I think that my colleague has certainly clarified that when Marcella, that's who the person they're making reference to, Johnson, made her statement, it is a fact that the VAT exemptions had stopped as August 1st. So when she spoke last night, she was speaking the truth. Maybe not the truth that he wants to hear, but nonetheless speaking a truth. And I would say to you that while I don't want to say any disparaging remarks on any of my colleagues here, but the Prime Minister of late really has become a stranger to the truth. And I think that many of those instances have been extremely well documented. One not so recently, Mr. Speaker, in this House. Mr. Speaker, when we want to tie this policy of taking away VAT on sanitary napkins and somehow translate that into how we feel about women, and that this should be some form of representation by this government that they appreciate women and that they're uplifting women, and then also want to malign, misrepresent. And they had their opportunity to say where they believe misrepresentations were taking place. I don't necessarily agree with them. But I know that the member from my colleague was making an issue not of giving sanitary napkins at schools for girls, but if you genuinely believed you wanted to help women, then there should be a policy to provide sanitary napkins to all those women that are in need of help. So what, the same mother, she's not having a period? The same mother who may be self-employed, Mr. Speaker, and the same way that her daughter doesn't go to school, doesn't go to school. So this mother is going to go to work. If we're going to help, and we genuinely want to be able to help women, Mr. Speaker, particularly more vulnerable women, then let's help everybody. Everyone. Everybody. Not just one. If the member from Castries East also wants to say that my party is silent on some of these issues, well, I'm very happy that the member from Soufrière Fonce-Jacques is wearing fuchsia today. I'm hoping that she's joined the silent protest of what is probably one of the ugliest times in our country, where, sadly, Mr. Speaker, a member from this House would publicly attack women and make the most disparaging, disgusting remarks about a married woman and what he was offering that married woman, Mr. Speaker. About a journalist in this country, Mr. Speaker, and putting out the journalist's own private information. And what is of concern to me is that same member, Mr. Speaker, has members of his own family he knows that died of that same disease. Cancer doesn't choose you, Mr. Speaker. How could you do that, Mr. Speaker? And the continual use of his position. You know, Mr. Speaker, it is all good and well if the Labour Party, Mr. Speaker, decided not to run a candidate in Castries Central and encouraged their members to support the so-called independent member, Mr. Speaker. Independent member, Mr. Speaker. Okay? Independent member, Mr. Speaker. Yes, it's good. It's fine, Mr. Speaker. Hello, Mr. Shanta Erickson. Nice to have you. Mr. Speaker, that the party would choose not to run a candidate. Understand for a moment. And encourage its own supporters to vote for that person, Mr. Speaker. And then...
Member for Miku South, I've given you great latitude, but the policies of a political party is not up for debate here. So, if you want to stick to the motion, please, but the policies of a political party is not the subject of the debate here. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, we can go back and play the tape, Mr. Speaker. The member from Castries East opened up that Pandora's box in speaking about saying things that my party should be saying. I'm asking the same thing. If we are here and you're purporting, Mr. Speaker, to be in support of women, and I'm just giving the history and the context of it, that we have an individual who's an MP of this House who remains up until today an independent member, that he's not a member of the Labour Party. And that the Labour Party deliberately had a strategy of making sure that he was in government. And that when he was elected into Parliament, made him a member of their cabinet, Mr. Speaker. And has used that position, Mr. Speaker, very clearly to attack and demean women and other citizens of this country. And yet still, when the member from Castries East would want me to speak out, I'm asking him and his party, why would you not condemn those same things, Mr. Speaker? Why wouldn't you? Where's the fear in standing out and saying that those things are not acceptable in our society? And that it's not fair, Mr. Speaker? Where is that? But you know, Mr. Speaker, it is not about me wanting to convince them, because I know that the public is seeing that for themselves and is asking the question constantly, right? Constantly, Mr. Speaker. They're asking themselves, what is going on? The same member wants to keep convincing us that it's tomorrow that he's going to become a member, Mr. Speaker. I feel sorry for him. Just like I felt sorry for my member from Castries Southeast, when he tried to deny what the situation is going on. And I certainly hope the same fate doesn't belie the member from Babino, Mr. Speaker. Okay, Mr. Speaker? So if we're going to come here and we want to be on truths and everything else, let us deal with what the truths are. Have a ready, beautiful woman. Mr. Speaker, absolutely. Welcome again. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I'm always very grateful when the member from Soufrière Fonce-Jacques gets up, because there are some things that she says that reveals always the truth. You know, when we sat in this House, Mr. Speaker, a big deal was made about the 90 items. The government had an opportunity to say that 25 of those items were going from VAT exempt to zero rated. You had that opportunity. You didn't. You didn't because you were trying to convince the public you were doing something for them. The member from Soufrière Fonce-Jacques admitted the total sum impact of the 90 items was $5 million. And put that in context with how much money the 2.5% levy is raising. Put that in context, and I will get to it, how much money the government has collected off of inflation, of the reason that she said, and I'll come in detail on that, which is the CIF price, Mr. Speaker. She's the one who said it. And she also now gave us another gem. The other gem is that those 25 items that were taken from from exempt to zero rated was for the business people. That's who it was for. It was to make the administration for the business people easier. Now let's speak about hypocrisy. I've had to sit here many times and hear members on the other side with a straight face, Mr. Speaker, try to say to us, can you imagine, that when we lowered the 2.5% VAT, that it didn't benefit the people. Why did they say that? They said because it helped the business people. But today, you want to come to the House and you want to tell us that you amended it and moved it from zero rated, so from exempt to zero rated, and that the business people are going to benefit. And there is an expectation, Mr. Speaker, that the business people are going to pass on those savings to the public. If that's the philosophy, why doesn't that apply when the 2.5% tax was taken off? Not on some items, Mr. Speaker, and not for a period of time, Mr. Speaker. On every item. Every single item in this country was reduced by 2.5%. And this government doesn't have the courage, the honesty, to go and tell the people of St. Lucia that the intention by them was to raise the VAT to 15%. But it was more palatable to be able to go out and sell some kind of story to the people of St. Lucia. Oh, we love you. We put you first. We're going to put this levy on, and this levy is only going to be, Mr. Speaker, for 2 years. And it's supposed to help what? Health and security. Knowing darn well that the people were feeling the impact of a poor health service. That the people were feeling the impact of national security. The Prime Minister and the member from Castries East looked in the camera and said to those people, I know it's going to be difficult, but I'm asking you to make the sacrifice. And then we turn around and find out the 2.5% levy had nothing to do with health and security. It had to do with a loan. And you want to talk about you put people first? Who? Y'all put people first? How? Where? Y'all continuously to put politics before people. That's because y'all have mastered the art of secret lies and propaganda. That's what you all have mastered. That is what you all are prolific at. That is what you all have become. And the fact is that people can feel it. I'm going to go further, Mr. Speaker, and prove that point. When inflation was coming in, and particularly the cost of shipping, and I'm glad that they have customs officers here. So they would know the CIF component of the cost of goods, particularly in the height of inflation, was severely impacted. And the VAT, and now the 2.5% levy, is also on that CIF price. We want to speak about what we can do to contain the cost in our country. There's a great example. Do what some other countries did, Mr. Speaker, and capped the freight rate that's taxable. You still pay the freight rate. But what the tax is going to be applied on, you cap it. Because when you don't do that, that is considered a windfall revenue to the state, Mr. Speaker. That's not sustainable. And at the end of the day, that is money that you're adding on and taxes you're adding on that the government is collecting. And then you want to come here and you're going to say you're going to give $250,000 for sanitary napkins? You're going to come here and take 90 items of which there is no impact change on 25 of them, $5 million, and stand and jump up and down like you've done something great? Mr. Speaker, all the facts speak differently to what they're saying. The bill had no discussions, Mr. Speaker, to talk about the program on rice, flour, and sugar. Where is it in the bill? Where is it? No, but the member wants to go there. And I'm glad she went there. Because again, in going there, has explained very simply for the people of St. Lucia of what a fact is. She said, boasting that there are people coming to St. Lucia who want to buy our flour, our rice, flour, and sugar because it's cheaper. Think of that for a moment. So we, the government, is subsidizing rice, flour, and sugar. But people can come from Martinique, they can come from Grenada, they can come from any other island and buy our subsidized rice and flour and sugar that we're subsidizing. Does that make sense to you? Does it make sense that the hoteliers, business people, foreigners who are here, expatriates, can all go to the grocery and buy rice and flour and sugar at a subsidized price? Who is ultimately paying for that, Mr. Speaker? The member said millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. And what has our party said? It is right to subsidize rice, flour, and sugar to those people who need and direct it to them. But we should not be subsidizing rice and flour and sugar to everybody. That doesn't make sense. And again, it's obviously something that this side believes in, because the member from Souffre Francais Jacques said it so boldly, so brazenly, as if casually. What a great thing. People come to our country and they say that the price of rice, flour, and sugar in our country is cheaper. And so they're buying it. When you watch the boats going over from Martinique, laden with flour, rice, and sugar. Why? Of course, if somebody is going to give them a gift, they will do it. Mr. Speaker, probably, in my mind, the greatest sin that has been committed by this government in this particular motion, Mr. Speaker, is that when people hear that the government decided to take out the VAT on these items, they think it's on tuna fish, corned beef. Get excited to go and find out what is only on the smaller size. That's it. It's not exempt on the bigger sizes. So if you have a family and you know buying a bigger size you can save money, no. The VAT exemption doesn't apply on that. only applies on the small one. Did we hear that in the presentation, Mr. Speaker? Did anybody explain that, Mr. Speaker? Or these are one of these other half-truths that we have, half-truths. And that intelligent people, people who ought to know better, people who should be the voice for the people to know better, remain silent, say nothing, or shake their head and condone it. Mr. Speaker, the same member from Soufrière Francais Jacques, you talk about hypocrisy, came into government and spoke about the vending machines. That the first thing that she will do when she gets into office is get rid of it. And when it came now, Mr. Speaker, to sign the licenses, conveniently went away and the Prime Minister reassigned her ministry in order for the Prime Minister to sign it. But yet she's still there. And that is something that is becoming commonplace with this party. That people are finding themselves, in order to be able to live up to the vitriol of this rhetoric. And you know, we have some important bills to discuss later today, which speaks to the ideology of the Labour Party. One in which one of my candidates clearly made some allegations, and I see denials. But the denials can only be in words, Mr. Speaker, because in actions, we're seeing something completely different. So, Mr. Speaker, the opposition has absolutely no difficulty in extending, and we're glad now it is for an extended period of time, for sanitary napkins. Very importantly, Mr. Speaker, the issue on green energy products. But again, the bill that the Minister from Infrastructure that's put off, and I want to say to him, thank you. And I'm hoping that the opposition will be given an opportunity to meet with the team so we can understand what this bill is all about. Because what we see is we see a commission, but we don't see any policy. So here it is now, we have a situation where we want to give duty-free items on this stuff, but the cap, and the member knows from Castries, the cap now of what people can generate for themselves is too low. So I'm hoping that this new bill that's going to be coming up will deal with some of those things. I see we're going to license people, etc. There's a lot of good parts, but certainly we don't want to speculate on anything on the bill. And I would hope through you, Mr. Prime Minister, that if it can be made possible that the opposition can get a meeting. I know that they were supposed to have met the Chamber of Commerce on Thursday, but apparently the consultant was tied up making another presentation. But this is a very important bill. And I would say, Mr. Speaker, through you, Mr. Speaker, to the Prime Minister, that it's good to understand policy-wise, where is the government going with this thing? Because right now we're only dealing with an entity called the Commission, which is like having a road. Roads are always good, but in order to determine how good the road is, we must know where the road is going to go and what the road is going to look like. So right now, it's kind of like hanging there without this policy position. I'm certainly would be very, very amenable to being able to obtain that kind of briefing. So, Mr. Speaker, we are in absolute control and in support of this motion today to extend the period unlimitedly on sanitary napkins. We'd like to add, we think that the initiative by the government to provide sanitary napkins to young girls in school is a good one, but falls short of what the real mandate is. There are a lot of vulnerable women out there who suffer from the same thing. We have a lot of young mothers. The menstrual cycle doesn't stop, okay? And so therefore, finding a way to make sure that this is equally made available to them would be a fantastic thing. And lastly, you know, we're coming into that, I think the Prime Minister calls it the heat of the season, the silly season, whatever you want to call it. And I certainly are going to try to restrain my remarks on what we're dealing with here in Parliament. I certainly will defend my political party on if I hear anything egregious that's being said in the House. But certainly, it's a matter of going to convince people. The member from Babonneau said it very, very well. You know, the people can see it, the people can feel it. Right? And where we may disagree on it is what their interpretation of it is. The fact is, people are suffering on the cost of living in this country, Mr. Speaker. They're suffering because incomes have not gone up. And this continual, perpetual misinformation as to how many people are really employed and whether the employment numbers have improved, Mr. Speaker, we've now seen that there are repeated reports which show that that's not true. Absolutely not true. But what is true, Mr. Speaker, absolutely true, is that this government has imposed almost $300 million of taxes on the public. $300 million that has come out of the pockets of people of this country and put into the pockets of the government. And a lot of people are asking, where has this money gone? Very similar to CIP, where has the money gone? Don't keep telling me what you think you're going to be doing with this. Actually show me where is it you're doing and show me how it's impacting my overall life. I thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.